Welcome to my daily review. Today is Tuesday, June 24, and you're looking at a daily chart of the Nasdaq, which essentially had a follow-through day today because it was up 1.43%, 281 points. Closed at 19,912. And I've been talking about this for a little while here on both the S&P and the Nasdaq, forming these little, what you call them, digestion patterns or consolidation, just a couple of weeks, big gains, off these lows, and now, just consolidating here for a couple of weeks. And, I've been saying, expect this to pop. Today it popped and it broke out of that little range bound pattern, and it closed just a couple hundred points below the high of 20,204 from December 16th. And I've been talking about this for a long, long time that I think it's going to take that out. What I actually think is going to happen here is it's going to rally up above it, maybe 20,300, then sell off and pull back to like the 21 and shake a bunch of fools and jokers out. But that's just my expectation. It's not a prediction. It could, rally, right through to 20,000 to 22, 23, 24,000. It could pull back at any time. It's just my expectation is that it's going to take out that old high of 20,204, and it broke out of that consolidation range today. Now, people want to know why. Why is the market going higher? Why? You don't need to know why, folks. Don't even ask. I mean, you're just speculating if you do. You could speculate that maybe things are, not as bad in the Middle East as you think, or, I think that the market is pricing in some sort of rate cuts here in 2025 and 2026. And when the rate cut cycle begins, you see multiple expansion. So you see the growthier names, the more riskier names, they expand more. The software, some of these companies without, they have sales growth, but not earnings growth, they're being rewarded. And so that's what kind of makes me think that the market is pricing in lower rates. And hopefully we get our lower rates here in July or September. I'm pretty sure we're going to get some lower interest rates. I was watching Powell today. He's he's uh he's an interesting character. I'll just leave it at that. All right. Like I said, you don't need to know why though. I talked about this S&P 2 going up and down like a teeter-totter, above 6,000, below 6,000, and it broke out of that little consolidation range as well, from that, I guess you'd call it 5968 to, I don't know, 6,050. And now today it's closed at 6,092. It was up 1.1%. I say essentially a follow through day. I don't really even look at the volume. I'm just looking at the if it's more than 1%, that's a nice day. Because the volume, not so much on the S&P, but on the Nasdaq, there's a lot of penny stocks being, traded, millions of shares, and it kind of skews the data. Here on the S&P, there's only 500 stocks, and they're legit companies, good sized companies. But it's good for me to see the smaller cap names, and I'm going to go through a bunch of them here because that's what I'm interested in, not the mega cap tech stocks. But this is the IWM was up 1.27%. And I'm not going to do the themes today, but I will go through a little bit of the Mag 7 because when the indexes are up like this, it's the Mag 7 that's driving it. And here's Microsoft. Just this is looks great, right? Making new highs, broke out of that consolidation pattern. Just things just a monster. It's a beast here, making new highs. You got to love Microsoft. I mean, if you're a long-term shareholder, collecting dividends and just having a retirement account, I mean, this is, this is what it does if you look at it over time, right? It just goes up over time. So, but if you're a swing trader, this is just, a little bit more actionable here recently because it has been consolidating for a long, long time. Another one in this Mag 7 group that, I shouldn't say all of them, but the semiconductor space was very strong today. I prefer AMD at this point. Nvidia is what, 3.6 trillion. I mean, I just like AMD a little better, but it was up 2.5%. Once again, you got to go to the weekly charts on these things, and it's been consolidating since I didn't want to say July 4th of last year. Yeah, what was it? Yeah, what, June 21st? No, maybe it was Microsoft was July, but anyway, it's been a year since these things have, been consolidating. Essentially dead money, hasn't gone anywhere. But maybe it can break out, make new highs, and appreciate some. It is, an awfully large stock. Apple didn't want to play today. This thing was down just slightly. The one that was really ripping was Amazon. Looks good here. This cup with handle. I had it on the ready list, I think last week or the week before. It just has not moved, but they announced a deal today, and Amazon had a nice day up, a couple percent. Meta is another one that looks pretty darn good. This one broke out of the cup with handle. Nice 13-point day today. And Google, I said I wasn't going to go through all of them. Okay, so I didn't. I didn't include Tesla, which was down today after a big move yesterday. All right. I said I wasn't going to go through the themes, but I'm going to lie and go through a couple of them. First, I want to point out CCL. I didn't have they must have come out late this morning with the data because I was looking all over for it and I couldn't find it. But this thing was up 7% today on a, pretty decent earnings report. We got triple digit earnings growth going from negative earnings to positive earnings. That's why we have the asterisk down here, but still a nice move for CCL with their report today. SNX reported also, and it had a nice move breaking out of a cup with handle pattern up over 7%. I'm going to talk about patterns later on because people think, oh, a cup with handle, it's got to move higher. Double bottom, it's got to move higher. Patterns are just patterns. They're not always going to work. Sometimes they fail, sometimes they succeed, but I think the market environment has more to do with it than anything else. All right. I said I wasn't going to go through the themes, but I lied because it's been such a darn long time since the drug stocks have gotten any love. And today, or recently, we've seen some drug stocks make some nice moves. This is Nectar, which had a positive phase two trial up 156% today, but it just got to go to the XBI because you can see this thing has been lagging and lagging in a clear downtrend. Maybe, this week it's up nearly 2%. Maybe, we had this bottom here when we got liberated, and it's been trying to rally up, but man, you could see this, extreme downtrend from, November where it was 105. Now it's at 83. So the biotech stocks have a long, long, long way to go. And I think they're going to get some love with their earnings reports later on this summer and in the fall, but they certainly have been beaten up. So I just want to point out that one. And CDTX had a positive trial. Man, this thing was up another 4% today after yesterday's move of 113%. Thank you very much. Oh my gosh, look at that breakout from the double bottom base. Yay, congratulations. Those two stocks, Nectar and Sadara up 122%. And this one, Nectar was it was halted in pre-market. I didn't know it was going to open today, but man, it had a hell of a day. Up 187% for the week. Thank you. And then BBIO is another one that I like in the biotech group. Not as extreme as the other two, but still a nice 5% move today. Surfing that, moving average, which we like the 5 EMA there. Strong stocks will do that. So BBIO breaking out of the double bottom base pattern, undercut the 50 and then rallied. Once again, that's another pattern. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There's no foolproof method on any pattern that's going to work, 100% of the time. And I'm going to get to that towards the end of the video today. All right. So I didn't want to go through any themes, so I didn't. I just gave you the biotechs, a couple of earnings reports, and I have to get to this building heavy construction group, top 20 group. It looks super strong. This is ROAD. You can see this base here. I don't think I had it on the ready list, but I should have. It was up 7% this week, but I didn't. I just checked. I did have one, but it wasn't that one. I'll get to that later. Quanta Services, nice move this week, up 3%. You can see it had this 3 weeks tight pattern and that this thing worked, right? Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And I'm going to get to that. But yeah, you can't count on them just because it forms a 3 weeks tight. Doesn't mean that, it's an add-on. It's just going to go up automatically. There are no guarantees. like I say, the market environment does help. STRL, Sterling, what is it doing? I mean, if you just look at this chart, you followed me for long enough, you could tell me what it's doing here. Every time it pulls back to that green line, what does it do? It finds support and it bounces. And it did it again. It was up 3% today and five more than 5% for the week. So that's a nice pattern for sterling. So yes, the biotechs and the building heavy construction. I mentioned the semiconductors earlier. So a lot of stuff is very strong. A lot of, the younger, smaller names are breaking out and showing strength, which I like because that's where I think you could hit some home runs and grand slams instead of just parking your money in Tesla or Nvidia or Microsoft. I think you could do a lot better elsewhere. All right, that's it. I'm going to go to my every morning I post on my site, the stronger names showing relative strength, and I'm just going to go through those stocks today. It's a Tuesday. Let's see what they're doing. Why are these stocks? This is AEVA, and this is one of these, I think these LiDAR. Yeah, it develops optical sensors, electronics, I think, in robots. I don't know. But this thing's on a heater, up 20% this week, up 9% again today. So this is why I dropped the criteria down to $20 from $30 because there's some names in here that or below $30 that I think you should be looking at. And every time this one pulls back to the five, what's it doing? This is very consistent pattern. Now, this is going to work until it doesn't. One of these days, the pattern's going to break and it's going to crash and burn. And there's going to be a lot of tears. But until then, you just follow the pattern, right? Until it bends at the end. What am I doing here? Oh, ASTS. This one I had on my ready list, I think 2 weeks ago and is down here by 35. This thing's already at 53 in a very short period of time. And what's it doing? I mean, you could answer this for me by now. I mean, you could do this by yourself, hopefully. Just when it pulls back, that's when you pull the trigger. When it rips up, today is probably a sell day, up 6%. Just trim some a little bit, trade around a core. When it comes back to here, buy the bounce. So that's the way I want to play these names that are showing so much strength. This is Avis. I had my buddy Andy out there in the Midwest, Kansas. Don't want to give you away. Somebody might dox you, Andy. But he's a great fisherman, and he tells me that this is what he believes is, one of your great travel stocks. It is overlooked. You always hear about Booking and some of these other travel names, but you don't hear about this one. This one's up 28% this week. This is Avis Budget Group, and yeah, man, this is why it's on our list. Now, if you own this stock and it's trading with the 5 year, I think you got to trim some today and wait for that green line to catch up to it. Up a 17% move. And I'm just, this is not fundamental. I'm not doing any fundamental analysis. I'm not really doing any technical analysis. I'm just showing you relative strength. Stocks are just showing relative strength that are above their moving averages. So, it's a technical indicator. And this is a CLS, electrical contracting manufacturing stock. What's it doing? Surfing the five like Stephanie Gilmore. Or Kelly Slater, whichever you choose, male or female, doesn't matter to me. Won't offend me. Okay. Oh, this is one that I really want to get to. This is the first day that we've seen meaningful selling distribution in Circle Internet Group. Personally, I think it's a buy. I think, maybe it'll gap down tomorrow and fool some people and shake some people out and show some strength. Maybe it'll sell off 2 days in a row. I don't know, but maybe it'll come down to 200. But I don't think this is the end of the run for Circle. That's just me. CRDO. This is one that I had on the ready list last week. And man, if you guys got it last week, you're doing great. If you're still holding it, you're doing even better. It was up 16% last week. Another 7.5% add on this week. It's only been 2 days, right? So congrats if you got that one. Credo looks fantastic. CRK. Now this is oil and gas stock, and I put an oil and gas name on our ready list this week. This thing's crashing and burning. Not really. It pulled back to its 21. not having a great week though, but this gives you information, yes, down 12%, that the oil and gas trade that was doing so well, now it's falling apart as the price of oil is coming down. And that tells you that, the market's kind of looking past some of that geopolitical stuff. And that's why I think they're looking towards rate cuts because oil's gone back down. It was up 70, 75 last week, back down to 65. So that's good overall, for inflation and for our growth stocks. Typically when gold and oil start, the commodities start heating up, it's a little more defensive and your growth names aren't going to do as well. These names that I'm showing you right here. CoreWeave, God, I had people today they're just hand-wringing. Yesterday the market was up, CoreWeave was down. Today the market was up, CoreWeave was down. So what? I own the stock, and to me, I don't really care. I'm not here to, make a nut every day. I don't really care. I'm looking a little longer term here for CoreWeave. I think this thing's going much higher, and I don't care if the market goes up and it pulls back a buck. Big deal. What did it do, folks? It pulled back to its five. It's done that before in the past. It's undercut the five here on these 2 days, the 12th and the 13th. And then after that, what did it do? It rallied 6%, 8%, pulled back on the Wednesday before Juneteenth, and then Friday ripped up another 8%. So just because it comes back a couple of days, to me, this is more of a buy, but I wouldn't buy it here as it comes down. I'd buy tomorrow if it starts to bounce. And I know, people say, "Oh, it was up at 180 and then it pulled back to 170." That's what you signed up for if you own this, this is what you signed up for, okay? And I get it. It was at 10 in the morning, it was what 184 essentially, and it was having an okay day, just cruising there around 180, 181. Then all of a sudden, boop, you get a little air pocket, right? It goes from what 181 to 171 in, 5 minute span, 10 minute span. So, you're going to get these air pockets with these, IPO stocks. And I'm playing a little longer term here. Of course, if it crashes and burns, then I'm going to sell it. But for right now, I have a good entry and I'm just going to hold it. It flattened out into the close. Um, if you don't, if you're gonna hand wring over this and obsess, go buy something like Waste Management. I mean, it pays you a dividend to hold it. It's a little tight trader, small, average daily range, easy to hold. Like I say, it's going to pay you to hold it, a couple percent. It's a great stock. I own this one as well, but Core is a different animal and that it's very volatile. And like yesterday, the daily range was 183 to 159, so $24, nearly 25. So that's kind of what it does. Today was even I think kind of a tight day here. It was only 183 to 171, only a $12 range. So this thing could pop tomorrow to 200, and it's going to have a day where it's going to pop like big, like a day like this. 25, maybe not 25%, but maybe 8%, 10%. It's going to have one of those days up 17 bucks. And you're going to wish you held it and didn't sell it just because it pulled back to its five. So I'm just talking to the people who are hitting me up online, just wringing your hands. Now, this is what you signed up for. This is all I'm going to say. If you can't handle this type of volatility, then either reduce your size to a manageable position where you can sleep at night, or just sell it and buy a less volatile stock. There's plenty of them out there, plenty winners that I've been showing you, and then I'm going to get to that you can own. But this is the wild one. This in Circle. These two are. I like them because they're good trading stocks. They move a lot, but they're not for everybody. How about that? EYE. This is National Vision. This one's surfing its five too. Keeps showing up. I lowered the criteria to 20 bucks. Didn't show up on the $30, so I moved it down. It gets decent volume here. And just surfing the five, so I'm not gonna not gonna argue with that. I mean, that looks like a fine stock to me. GRAL, this is another volatile name. Just surfing its 21 here. Undercut the five today, but looks fine, up 2%. That thing looks pretty darn good to me. Groupon know some people who were trying to trade this and couldn't get their hands on it. And it's just down 2.2% today. Now pull back to the five. Watch for the bounce tomorrow, if you want to own Groupon. Hood, this is another one that I own. Hood and CoreWeave, my larger positions, doing nothing wrong. This is my easiest hold. Why? Well, what is it doing? I mean, is it even pulled back to the 21? No. And even if it did, I wouldn't sell it. I'd expect it to bounce. Now, if it didn't bounce, then I would sell it. But look at how long it's been surfing. It's five, since this pullback to the 21 here on May 6th. Hello. I mean, to me, this is that real super easy hold. So now watch tomorrow crash down to its 50 down to then I'll have to sell it. But it's been an easy hold up to now, up 7% today. And if you played those daily options, you could see at in the open here just all day long, just buy, 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 buy the whole day. Close at what, 82? Yeah. Palantir did the same thing. I'm going to get to that. AMD, a lot of them did that same type of action. JBL, just buying all day, right? JBL, they had the earnings report last week, and this thing's cranking up every day since the earnings report. Easy to see why that one's on our relative strength list. LEU, I was going to do the nuclear plays today because nuclear was strong. This one, pulled back to its five because once again I said, this was 7.7% above its five. Well, yeah, it's going to come back, right? So you don't chase it up there. Today I would say it would be more of a buy than a sell as it pulls back to its five. But the other ones, like I said, I'm not going to do themes today. This is New Scale Power. This is SMR as a ticker up 18% as it bounced off its 21. This will probably show back up on our relative strength list. And Oklo is back around 60 again today. Wow, closed 60.71. Nice. 10% move here. What did it do? Pull back to the 21 now above the 5. So those two will probably show up on our list. We've got the alternative energy group number one, and I had one of those names on my ready list today that did well. I'm going to get to that in a minute as well. Lemonade, the insurance pulled back a little bit today. Not bad. Just minding the five. This is why I pay attention to the five EMA and these stronger stocks because that's where you can get in. These things aren't going to form big, beautiful bases for you with a cup with handle and pull back. These aren't going to do that. These things are just ripping higher. And that's the type of market that we're in right now. So you have to recognize market direction. That's why I post that on my page every day. The environment is green. So it's time to buy stocks and take advantage of this uptrend. This is MP pulled back, undercut its five today, closed below it. 1.3% below it. So I'll be watching that one tomorrow. That might be an opportunity, 4.5% pullback. Very nice. But you can see it broke out of this base. It's been on a tear. And so we'll see where that finds support and buyers step in. Cloudflare, I did put this one on my ready list. Did I not? Yeah, okay. Yeah, and it had a decent move today. It looks fine. Just pushing away from this base here. This is a stage three base, just pushing away from it. Not this is not core weave or circle, but it's up 4% this week. And a nice move. Some of the cybersecurity stocks were down today, and so to see that one up uh, shows some more relative strength, more confirmation. NNE, I showed you that one, didn't I, earlier in the alternative energy group? Maybe I didn't. SMR, Oklo, and NNE, the nuclear names went kind of nuclear. That one was up 11% today. You can see why it's on our relative strength list. OUST, another big winner. Saw some profit taking today. It was up like, yeah, up in the morning here. And then what did it hit? 25, then pulled back. Yeah, at 11 o'clock Eastern, pulled back. Still, down to 24. Come on. It was up like the index, 1.18%. House looks fine to me. A couple of other more names. I had some guy telling me that Roblox is a short. Well, go ahead and short it. I don't short stuff like that. I want to short the weaker stocks because I don't know how long and how far this thing's going to go. It has been pretty incredible from $50 to 104. That's been a two-bagger since we got liberated. Just surfing the five like Stephanie Gilmore, man. That's a Kelly Slater stock if I've ever seen one. Just a thing of beauty here. A tight trader support at the five every darn time, bounces off that level. Man, if you don't own that, I don't know why not, but it's kind of hard now, right? Just wait for a pullback. But yeah, that thing's been Yeah, good. Man, for a long time, it's been a very strong stock. SEZL. I had some people ask me about this one today. This thing's not going to set up. It's one of these names that's not going to set up in a base for you. This one day it pulled back on June 10th. It was the day that I don't know if they threatened to sue Shopify or if they actually litigated, and it pulled back and just immediately bounced off the 21, and that's the one day that it pulled back, and otherwise it's just been surfing the five. Now it's a little extended today to be buying it up here at 161. It's 7.5% above the 5 EMA, which is what 149 today. So let that thing catch up, let it pull back. Maybe you get it in, the 155 area. But don't, I don't think you should pay 160 for it. Let it pull in a little bit. Hopefully it will. The other one in the group is Dave, which has got this, I don't know, people call it high tide flag. That's fine. Yeah, it went up 100% from the breakout, I guess. No, no, it didn't. 125, no, my math is off. Anyway, it is flagging here. And you can call it whatever you want. Like I say, a pattern is a pattern is a pattern. You call them whatever you want. But nice pop after it broke above this downtrend line. So it's up 8.7% this week. I do like SEZL a little better than Dave because it's a little steadier trader, but they're both, fine. SEZL's got a little more volume than Dave, actually a lot more volume, but Dave's a higher price stock. I just prefer SEZL in the way it trades, but Dave is fine as well. Those two are real strong. I showed you STRL earlier. That one's on our ready list. And TSSI, this is another one. I lowered the price of our criteria from 30 to 20 so I could include stuff like TSSI. If you don't own it, you got to think about buying it. It's got this growth, incredible growth numbers, right? Triple digit sales and earnings growth. It's one of these ones. It was 720 million, excuse me, $712 million market cap. So these are the tiny stocks. It's got, I don't know, a couple hundred million in sales with the incredible growth. I mean, this one could be a two bagger, three bagger, or more. So, I think, you can't just, well, I mean, you can sit in Microsoft and Apple, but I think you got to take a swing at some of these things. And Tizzy would be one of them, TSSI. I call it Tizzy. It's just TSS. The ticker symbol is TSSI. And that's it. No, it's not. I have one more drug stock that I didn't get to earlier. This one's just on a roll. It was upgraded yesterday. This thing's super strong. Verona Pharma, VRNA. We'll see how it handles that 100 level. And then VST, another energy name that I like, just surfing the five. Just flat today. Maybe it'll pull back to its five tomorrow, but that one looks strong as well. All right. I mentioned, there's 50 or 60 names on my ready list today that some of them I didn't put on. I kind of kicked myself. I got a little defensive over the weekend, but I saw a ton of stocks set up, and that's why I remain totally bullish. But I did put this one on the ready list today as it kind of had this, first of all, it had this cup of handle pattern, 447, had this little wedge type pattern, whatever you want to call it, a pennant, a flag, and then it broke out of that. So I was also looking for it to trade above the 500 level, and it did that today. It was up 5%, in the $23 move up to 510, but it's got to hold above that level. I don't want to see it teeter-totter back and forth at 500 forever, because that's opportunity cost. You can be in other stocks that are trading higher, but I still like that one. I did show you net earlier. That one's on the ready list. Probably going to leave it on. It's getting a little extended though. Maybe I'll take that one off. PRIM, this is the building heavy construction name that I put on the ready list. I showed you some others in the group. This one though, it's got this, very pronounced textbook cup with handle pattern. If I show you the weekly here, this is very classic textbook, and it's just starting to break out. Yeah, it's up 7% this week. So that's another one that I like. TOST. This is a finance, a credit card payment stock, just consolidating in a flat base here. It's only been like 5 weeks, up 3% today, up 5.5% for the week though, but still consolidating, still actionable to me, even though it's let me get this reading here for you. It's 2.9% above its five. So you don't want to chase, but it's still in a base, and the actual I would say the trigger point would be, 45.24, and the standard is 45.56. It's just right there at 44.67. So, if it wants to pull back and bounce off the five, then maybe that'll give you another opportunity to get in. If you didn't, Palantir, I mentioned this one earlier, just all day long, just buyers, buyers, buyers. It's like that Jim Cramer gif, buy, 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 all day long. This one has been on the ready list for a while because I think, should own it. To me, Palantir and Hood, I mean, those are some really easy holds right now. I don't think you're going to get really hurt badly with them. AMD is another. But yeah, this one looks fantastic. Trading with its five. Since I mentioned AMD, I think I mentioned it a couple times, and I don't think I've showed you the chart. You know how I like how the shorter term moving averages trade through the slower ones, the faster ones trade through the slower, and it did that last week. So, gosh, I didn't put it on the ready list, and I kicked myself. Believe me, I swear to God, I stay up at night thinking about stuff like this. Why didn't I put this one on the ready list? It's up 8% this week. I cost my subscribers money by not putting this on, but to me, this one is still actionable. Uh, I prefer to buy it on a pullback, but if it doesn't want to pull back, you're gonna have to bite the bullet, hold your nose, close your eyes, and just buy small. Maybe buy, if you want to buy 100 shares, just buy 25. It's kind of scale in, and if it pulls back, you can add as long as it doesn't drop like more than 5%. And start, this trade starts going the wrong way on you. This thing looks to me like it's trending higher and wants to go higher. And when you're looking at these names, you really have to look at the context. This the base here from when was this? March of 24. So it's been, I don't know, 15, 16 months here. Or is it 227? And now it's this big consolidation. And if you look at the numbers here, they've been showing really good, solid, sales and earnings growth. So it's about time the stock starts responding here. Market cap 224 billion as opposed to what, 3.8 trillion for Nvidia. So I just would rather have the smaller companies. And this one I wouldn't call small, but that one looks good. Who else do we have? I said Palantir. HNGE is another one that I put on the ready list. This one, I don't know. This could do something like a circle or a core weave. Why not? It kind of looks like it, doesn't it? Where it had this little IPO base and now it's just ramping higher, up by 12% this week. So if you got that one, congrats. I just, bought it small, not enough to impact my account. I just wanted to put it on my radar. So when I'm looking at my portfolio that I say, oh yeah, I've got Hinge, maybe I should add to it. Because I'll forget about stuff like that if I don't buy a little bit. And if I don't see it there, I just sometimes I forget. It's probably old age. Hmm. All right. One that I didn't put on. I gotta go to confession here. I gotta go see Father Guido and beg for forgiveness. And I was gonna put this one on the ready list. It had pulled over the weekend, it had pulled back. This is your Friday close, pull back right there with the five and the 21 there were converging, right? And it just bounced barely off the five on Friday, but I didn't put it on. It's a financial name. And so this is the kind of stuff that keeps me up at night. This one's up 13% this week. Still, to me, if you're looking at it, from the weekly, you're saying, hey, that's a cup with a little handle, and now it's just starting to move higher. I mean, it's a, $14 stock. Um, Got some decent short interest, 1.3 billion market cap. It's got the earnings growth. There's a lot to like with this stock. But yeah, I didn't put it on. Maybe I'll put it on tomorrow at 14.45. But that's the kind of stuff that, I feel bad because I'm a dumbass and I should know better. Excuse my French. I'm a dummy. All right, that's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up. Except for none of the great Steve Jobs, we stay hungry, we stay foolish, and we stay humble. If you're making a ton of money in the market, a lot of people are, a lot of the picks are doing well. Just stay humble, don't brag to anybody about your winnings because that's a surefire way to lose money. And if you're thinking that way and you're like, you're you're doing really well. Maybe you should trim some, put some in the bank, or buy something nice for your significant other, or for yourself. Do something nice for yourself. This is the type of market we're in. You could take some off and still make more, but certainly, stay humble. I wanted to point out. After hours today are Fred Smith. Yesterday I looked up he has 10 kids, Fred Smith. He passed away, the FedEx founder. One of them works for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he's offensive coordinator or something. But anyway, yeah, 10 kids, man. That's old school stuff. But he passed away over the weekend. There was a new CEO. There's been a new CEO since 2022. They reported after the bell, and the report was good. They didn't want to give full year guidance because it's a little murky out there, according to the CEO. But they did give the quarter guidance, which was just a little bit light, and I think that's why it's down 4%. We'll see what happens with this one tomorrow, but a pretty good report overall for FedEx. And what was the other one? Oh, AVAV. This one had a great report. It was down. I don't know what's going on here. Maybe tomorrow. You never know what goes on in after hours. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I look, these Robinhood traders are just bidding stuff up crazily, and then the market opens and they crash and burn. So you got to be careful who's selling after hours. That was a really phenomenal report. I will have more in the morning on this. I like this. A little flag pattern here. It's finding support at the moving average, pinching in here. A really good report. I wouldn't be surprised if this one traded up to 200 tomorrow. I would be surprised if it pulled back to 180. But anything can happen. We've seen a lot of wonky moves around the earnings reports. And then BlackBerry reported. BlackBerry, what do they do anymore? I don't even know. They have BlackBerry phones. Canadian company software enterprise of things. Really, I don't know what BlackBerry does. They did report. Tim Foote's a CFO. How about that? Yeah, I don't know. It's up after hours. A $4 stock, man. Remember back in the day, research in motion. Everybody had one of those BlackBerry phones until Steve Jobs crushed them, squashed them like a bug on your windshield. And Steve Jobs, he transformed a lot of businesses and put a lot of businesses on the street and on the unemployment line. All right. I did say that I was going to show you just earlier. I showed you the 3 weeks type pattern that worked, and we have another one here with DoorDash. Now, this is a add-on buy point after DoorDash had this double bottom base pattern, right? A pattern is a pattern is a pattern. It's just a pattern. It doesn't guarantee that just because it's 3 weeks tight, it's going to rip up 7% in 2 days. This one happened to work, and sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. But just because you see a 3 weeks tight pattern, oh, I'm going to just jump all in. I'm going to mortgage the house and throw everything at this stock. Uh, it doesn't work that way in the market. Even in an uptrending market like we have now, you still have to be a little careful, shall I say. It did happen to work for DoorDash. 3 weeks tight. It's trading higher, making new highs. This is one of my favorite weekly charts here. DoorDash, this thing just looks like it's going to be a monster stock. And if we look at the monthly here, it looks a lot like Robinhood and Dutch Bros. We're just starting to break out. I'm kind of getting away from my point here, but Bros and what else did I say? Robinhood, yeah, looking like this. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Robinhood, yeah, really breaks out and moves towards 100. But Robinhood Dash, Dutch Bros, these IPOs from 2021, they look fantastic. That's not the point. My point is the 3 weeks tight don't always work. This is Zscaler had 3 weeks tight last week, and it's just kind of hanging around its five. Today it was down $2. It was up a little bit yesterday, down a little bit today. So it's just still forming this little flat base, this little ledge pattern. It's not enough time to be a flat base. This is only 4 weeks and it needs 5 weeks to be a flat base pattern, but maybe it'll break out, maybe it won't, but there's no guarantees just because Zscaler had a 3 weeks type pattern that it's going to rip higher like our friend DoorDash did, up 7%. So that's just my point here. Maybe it will. Maybe could buy Zscaler in the morning. I'm probably going to put Zscaler on because I like the pattern. I think eventually it's going to push away from that 300 level and push away from that 5 EMA where it was today. 306.82 is the 5 EMA, and it closed just a tick above it. So yeah, one of these days it's going to pop and it's going to put 300 in the rear view mirror. And I just wanted to point that out. there are no guarantees. Just, a pattern is a pattern. Some people have their favorite ones, or cup with handle, they're double bottoms, they're undercutting rallies, they're flat bases. There's a lot of different patterns out there. But there are no guarantees. There are definitely no guarantees. So that's my point I wanted to make. Yeah, Zscaler will probably be on. I'm just looking at my ready list here, and I have so many stocks to choose from. I don't really know which way to go here. I put four new ones on today. I'll probably add a few more tomorrow. Try to be conservative because, we don't want something like this to happen because Hims and Hers was looking pretty decent. And this one fell apart due to the NVO news. And I just got to point out, I mentioned this in the past that when a stock does this, goes from 72 to what, 23, that to me is it's not a red flag, but it's cautionary, right? If a stock is able to do that and fall 50 bucks, granted, this was during the tariff uncertainty when the stock market was in a 27% correction in the Nasdaq. But here we go. We've done it again. We've gone from what, 67 to 42. And that type of vertical action is just it's habitual with this stock. And to me, that's like I said, it's not a red flag, but it's a yellow flag. It's a sign of caution. Don't get too crazy with this one. I like it longer term, but for now, this is just too erratic for me. There's other stocks you can buy that are just acting better, is my point. Yeah, it's down 24% this month and down 33% for the week. So 41% off of its 52-week high. So yeah, that is just what I'm saying. Watch the left side of your stocks when you're buying a stock. Because if they have this ability to crash like this, why won't it do it again? If it did it once, then it can do it again. So just doesn't mean you don't buy it. It just means you're mindful of it. That's all. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up. Hopefully you're doing really well and enjoying this stock market.